I'd like to call this meeting to order. Stand and repeat the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Weeding? Commissioner Walsh?
Here.
Commissioner Wozak?
Here.
Mayor Hart?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I am going to turn this over to Dale, and he can proceed from there, okay?
We're gonna do this like every other town hall. I've asked Tim Brophy to come in from the Will County Treasurer's desk. I've known Timmy for about 45 years. We grew up near each other in Joliet. So, thanks for coming, Tim. But along with questions from Tim, to or Tony, or any of us, I just figured with tax questions and all that, property taxes, Tim might be able to clear some things up. I have some questions in case you don't, but, Tim, I was just gonna ask you to start, just give your background of,
Sure.
Will County.
So, first I'll introduce myself. My first name is Tim, obviously, Tim Brophy. And would you guys do me a favor so we can say we've met? We'll run around the room, you say pass if you want to, just holler out your first name, would you?
Liz.
Liz?
Jay.
Mike.
Wayne.
Shirley.
Matt.
Donna.
Sure. Debbie.
Chuck. Kyle.
Rebecca.
Diane.
Chris.
Kim. Verna.
Mike. George.
All right, we can say we're on a first name basis then.
Who sits where?
Yeah. Now you stand up and repeat all of our names.
Oh, yeah, I'm not that good, I'm not gonna do a show like that. So, I'm in my 6th year, I was elected in 2018 to the Treasurer's Office. Prior to that, my political past, I served 16 years on the Joliet City Council from 95 to 2011. My background is banking. I went to college, came out, got a job at a bank, and was kind of a banker. And real estate. I have my real estate license. I've had that for about 30 years. And so, I live in Joliet. I have 3 adult children and no grandchildren yet. So, that's a little bit about me, bio-wise. You want me to go on to some stuff on the?
Sure, go ahead, Tim.
The Treasurer's Office is a funny place. We are the messenger. I'm the messenger. And so I get most of the shots. But there's a cycle of things that happen before those numbers end up on your tax bill. And everybody own property here, everybody gets a tax bill? I know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah. It's as I say, it's the worst system in the world, except for the fact there's none better. I don't know if any of you have traveled to foreign countries. Well, it's nice to come home. I know. Living under the stars and stripes is a little bit safer than most other places, but we do it, it's the system we have, and so, it's a long, involved process that starts here, actually, at your city council meetings. You put together a budget, and from the budget, you decide how much you're gonna ask the people to contribute from real estate taxes, the levy. The levy is communicated to the, you have hearings and meetings and such to approve those, but then it's communicated to the county clerk, and the county clerk calculates tax rates, and then from the rates, they send them over to the treasurer's office. We turn that into dollars, print the bills and send them out. So, we have about 287 parcels, individual separate parcels in the county, 287,000. About 97.5% to 98% of those pay on time as agreed without problems. We spend the rest of our year on the 2.5% that can't get that right. Either they don't pay, or they screw it up somehow, or they overpay, or they underpay, or he pays with this checkbook, she pays with that checkbook, they both paid, and we're trying to get a refund. You know, sometimes that's the case. It sound familiar? No? Okay. So that's half of the office. Half the office is what we call the levy side, which we're billing, collecting, and then fixing the problems with those and everything in between, because you have, some people go to court, get a court order to change what they owe. Sometimes we catch errors and we just simply file a correction certificate. We fix it ourselves, then we have to send you a new bill. The other half of the office is the investments with the county funds. I'm the county banker. So all the departments that do any kind of transacting, whether they collect fines or fees or whatever they do, they stop daily at the treasurer's office and make a deposit of the checks and the cash that they've taken in. And also then, I invest the reserves for the county in every department in it. So I have at any given time right now about $290 to $300 million invested for all those various purposes in the county operation. So two sides, kind of a banking side and then the real estate side, the tax bill and everything that goes in it, and the things that affect it are mostly related to real estate and things that concern real estate. The funny thing is, there's very little accounting going on in the treasurer's office. Everybody thinks the treasurer has to be an accountant. There's actually a whole finance department under the county executive where they do the accounting and the auditing and CAF for the annual report, the annual finance report. So the accounting is done between the central finance office and then that outside auditor that we hire to come in and audit everything to see if it's done right, like you do here. But the treasurer's office is a combination of banking and real estate. So those are the two functions that are really going on there. Has anybody ever appealed their taxes? I don't want you to point yourself out if you don't want to. You've done an appeal. Okay, good. Once, twice? Once. How was the process?
Super easy.
Really?
Yes, it really, I had no problems at all. Like, I called, got a lady,
Yeah.
told her why, she looked into it, and they adjusted it.
So
It was
you
when I
called,
very first bought my house, so,
you called your assessor directly?
yeah.
Okay, so that, a lot of people don't know that's available.
It's right on your tax bill.
What are
It
the
literally
easiest
tells
ways?
you how to appeal it.
Start with your assessor with a phone call.
Yeah, and that
Now,
was it.
if you disagree though, there's another process that you take where you actually file a formal appeal. And what you're appealing is not the tax, but the assessed value that's been assigned to your home. So has anybody taken it to that level? Okay, no. So,
I
oh,
actually thought that was the last process, was talking to the assessor, who I totally disagreed with, and I thought that was it. I
Oh.
didn't know you could actually continue, I thought that was the last line of defense.
all right, so real soon here, August, September, right in this time, you're gonna get a card from the county, you're gonna get an assessment card. And most people don't pay any attention to it, because it's not the tax bill. It just has the assessment numbers on it. It tells you what your new assessment is for next year. We're gonna use that number to calculate next year's tax bill. That assessment card has information on it about how to appeal if you don't like what you've seen there. And you have to do it within 30 days of receiving the assessment card. Most people call the treasurer's office in May when they get the tax bill and say, I want to appeal this. And I go, well, you're late for this year, but you're early for next year. You can't do it in May. You have to do it in August, September. So watch your mailboxes for that assessment card.
With the market being so crazy right now, and the average house costing a fortune, so that's almost guaranteeing that if you guys are gonna base it already off of this year that our tax bills are gonna be higher next year.
Yeah, that's the darndest thing, your house, it's a castle when you're trying to sell it, but it's a dump when the assessor comes by.
For sure.
Right, you know, you want it to be down here when the assessor comes by, but you're trying to sell it, it's worth this much. And everybody's in the same boat, and then, of course, when you own a property long-term, your assessment is lifted by the activity of the rest of the market.
Yeah,
And the assessor has to go, well, gee, this is what the market's telling me. You've got this many square feet, these houses have that many square feet, I've gotta assess yours like I do these. So they use current sales to assess yours, even though you didn't buy it or sell it recently, yours changes. Again, worst system in the world, none better. Okay?
yeah, but seems really unfair.
It is, except when you look at if you look at that tax bill, it really is stars and stripes come to life. These are the things we do together that we can't do ourselves. I mean, you could pump water out of the ground, a lot of people do, they have a well, okay? But most of us like to just hook it up and get the water from the city. You could, educate your kids at home, but most of us wanna send the kids to the school and let the schools do it. You could be ready with a big bucket of water in case your house starts on fire, but most of us like the insurance policy called the fire department. And likewise, down the road, police, park districts, library, everything else. This is what we do together, and so we all have to pay for it every year, even though we don't use it all exactly the same. Don't go to the library often, but he does. You go to the park district a lot, he doesn't, you know.
That's a good explanation.
So it's those things that we do together, and so, you know, if you think about it, what else would we do than the way we do it that way? The alternative is difficult to imagine. And so, through your elected officials, hopefully you have a voice. This is where your levy starts for the village part of it. Your school board does their levy. So every line item on that tax bill has an elected group that decides on that little assessment part. Okay? So you can, like you're here addressing these folks, you can go to the school board meeting and ask them, why are you asking for more money? You can go to the library, you can go to the park district meeting, you can go to all those meetings, you can say, why are you asking me for more money on my house? And they'll have a good reason. They, you know, you've got people to pay and expenses and things go up just like in your budget, like the same way they do for government. So,
Hey, Tim,
Yeah.
As far as the appeals, do you have a percentage of how many people win their appeal or anything like that?
geez, I don't have that data.
Okay, my dad did it every year,
Yeah, some,
I don't know if he won or if he didn't.
some
just
folks
wasn't
do it
there.
every year, and it's kinda like, you know, if you stick your head up too often, it just might get shot. This, by the way, is really basal cancer, little thing I had taken off. This is no statement whatsoever, so I apologize, the timing is terrible, but if you go into the assessor too often, they're gonna just eventually get tired of it. Because, you know, if your house is somewhat similar to those around you, there's plenty of evidence of what yours is worth, more or less. And, the real test is if you were to have, you know, if you thought about selling it and you have a realtor come in and tell you what it's worth, you want it to be worth a lot. But when the tax man drives by, you want it to be worth a little. And those two things are always in competition with each other. So, yeah, I don't know, I always encourage people to call the assessor first to check and see if there are any, errors. But be careful, let the assessor speak first. So you ask the assessor, how many bedrooms do you think I have? And if he says, well, we show you have 3. If you have 4, shut up. If he said, what kind of foundation do I have? If he says, looks like you're on a slab and you have a basement, shut up. But I mean, you can look for errors there, and if they're in your favor, of course, fix them. Sadly, you may discover things that are not in your favor, Cause that conversation doesn't always go the way I just described it. So, start there, see if there are errors. If they say, you're on an acre, aren't you? You say, no, I'm on a quarter acre. All right, we gotta fix that. You know, there's human error in this stuff that you may find, but when you call your assessor. Especially if you compare it, if our houses are real similar to my neighbors, and he's paying $8,000 a year, I'm paying $9,000, and he's paying $8,000. I would call the assessor, they're almost identical houses, what? You know, why is mine different? And there may be an error. And then you could ask your assessor, well, what are the odds I appeal this? The assessors are gonna be pretty honest, they're gonna say, look, you could appeal, but this is a lot like so many other houses right around you. There's no evidence to support your claim, you know, so you could be wasting your time by going through the whole thing. So maybe they didn't steer you wrong, maybe they just, maybe. But it is your right to do that, but watch the assessment card, because the clock is ticking. There's a 30-day window to start the process, you don't have to finish it in 30, but you have to file and say, I'm going to appeal, okay? Not my job, that happens upstairs in the supervisor of assessments office. That's not an elected position, it's appointed by the county executive and approved by the county board. So that person up there is a salaried employee, like any other county employee. Some counties in the state elect their supervisor of assessment. I don't know why we don't. Well,
And another question real quick. How many, does each town have an assessor? Is that?
no, each township.
Each township.
So the county divided into the townships, as you know, and so the assessment function is done at that level by statute.
How many townships do we have in Antelope County, you know?
36, 32, but we have one that's split in half down here. So I think they're 33 in Will. The 16th is usually the one in the middle for the reserved for the school, and then, so I think 32-ish.
So you don't work with the assessors, that's the assessor's office?
Right. I do interface with them, my office interfaces with them. Sometimes we'll have information we gather from taxpayers, and my staff will be looking at their tax bill, and they'll be in conversation, making notes, and learn things about them that don't fit. So a lot of cases, the owner of the property has moved somewhere else, which is why we're talking to them. Tax bill went to the wrong place or whatever. Oh, that's a rental home now, that's not my home. Well, you can only have a homestead exemption on one home, can't have it on multiple homes. So we'll then send those notes to the assessor and say, this fella says this one's a rental now. Not ours to tell you what to do with that information, but Mr. Assessor, this is what we've learned. And so, hopefully, to be fair, everybody gets one homestead exemption, and you don't get it on rental homes. You don't have 2, 3, or 4. You can't even have more than one, it's one per country. If you have a home in Florida and you have a homestead exemption on it, you can't have one here in Illinois. Find that out the hard way? Oh.
No, but I was just saying darn.
Yeah,
they got one in Florida.
No, they're really smart about it.
What does that mean? I mean,
The homestead exemption?
no, I know what the homestead exemption is. What does it mean when you can only have one and you have another property? You just pay way more taxes? Is that what it means?
You just pay normal taxes.
Well,
on the
let's
other
say,
property,
let's
so
look
they
at the
don't
other way, yeah, you pay the full amount,
get the exemption.
Oh, okay.
you pay the full amount of taxes on every parcel, except the one you live in, you get a discount because it's your homestead. And you get another discount if you're over 65. And you can go further if you wanna do a freeze. You can freeze the assessed value if you're over 65 and you make less than, 65,000 a year. Your home, everybody in the house. And some folks got stuck with this because they have multiple people living in the house, adult children. You have to declare all the income in the household to qualify for the freeze. So sometimes your kids living with you screws that up.
What's the definition of income in the household? So it's,
If it shows up on a 1040, it's income.
Just on your.
If you report it to the IRS, then it's income. That's what you have to turn that into proof.
Is that the adjusted?
Adjusted bottom line.
Yeah, I don't know what that, I'm sorry, I don't know what number is the 65, if it's gross or adjusted, so I apologize.
And who do you contact about that to freeze it?
Supervisor of assessments. That's upstairs in the county building. My office is on the main floor, they're right above me. And so once you turn 65, you wanna visit there and see what you, qualify for. Definitely the senior, everybody gets a senior, no qualifications on income. But the senior freeze is eligible to only those with household income less than 65. Now, it was 55, they moved it to 65. That'll move, so that's not a fixed figure, but at the moment it's 65.
So that senior freeze, what does it do? It freezes the assessment
It freezes your assessment at the current rate. And so now the tax rate may change a little, so the tax dollars will change a little. It's almost frozen, the amount they pay, but not quite. Because the levies are different, the rates are different every year slightly, and so that number will move a little bit, but that's pretty much frozen at the level of tax they're paying.
And you can't do that online, you actually have to go there?
Good question, I think they have,
For what? I'm sorry,
for
go there for
the
what?
senior, freeze
Well, I don't know
application.
about the freeze, but I applied for the homestead, online, I filled out the paperwork and mailed it in, and it was a very easy process.
Thank you, good answer. I am not the assessor, but I know a lot, I interface with them a lot, so I'll answer as many questions I can about assessments, but I don't do the day-to-day.
And the senior freeze, is it not tied to being in any other subsistence program type of thing? Because when I was looking at it online, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, those are good questions for that office, sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, only available on the home you live in. And then there's one more item, and that's called a senior deferral. That's where you actually borrow up to $5,000 from the state to help to pay the tax for you. And what happens is, there's a small application, just kind of like a loan application. You have to prove that the home is insured, you have to prove your income, and then the state pays the tax for you. You pay that back someday when you die or sell the house. So that deferral is not a freebie, it's just that the state is offering to pay it for you, so that seniors can stay in their home that are really in dire circumstances. And we only have maybe 4 dozen of those each year.
It's for a single year, Tim. It's
Per
for a single
year, we'll have 50 or 60 applications of folks that need to borrow money from the state to pay their taxes. But it's available, and it's not at a great rate either, they moved that recently too. Sorry, I don't know that rate.
I think there's a little sticker shock from people, cause around here we have a few older subdivisions, which the taxes haven't been assessed in a long time, that we'll just use a $3,000 price, tax on, their assessments at $175 to $200. And then one of their neighbors sells a house which sells for $275, and then the assessor goes in there and hits the whole neighborhood, cause they're all the same house.
Yep.
And then it's like a slap in the face when it goes up $1,000 there, why did that happen?
So,
It's
so
assessed
the
down.
question is, did you get a deal for so many years and it just caught up to you? Cause the house didn't just move from 175 to 275, it crawled up slowly. But he or she, the assessor, didn't move that up for you. But then they're gonna catch it all.
Yep.
So, who knows what's fair?
That was a question we had on someone that was talking about that, if I get a senior freeze and I go in there and ask them, and they come and look at my house, do they reassess it and go, oh, instead of $2,500, you should be paying
No, they don't reassess. You apply for the freeze, they'll use whatever the current assessment is, they're not sending somebody out to do a special.
Gotcha.
No.
Is that a perpetual freeze, or does it change? You have to
Perpetual,
reapply?
perpetual unless you screw it up. So you gotta stay there, you gotta live there, and you gotta be careful if you have somebody come in and live with you. I don't know why you tell them that, but every year you have to go in and declare it. If you declare I have someone living there, they have income, but it's screwed up. And the other one is, I had a couple just this year, they helped their daughter buy a house, okay, over there, that's fine, but they also put their name on it. Well, 3-4 years later, the daughter sells the house. Well, the title company reports the owners sold the home, that goes to the IRS. Now they've got income, put them above the threshold, and they lost that freeze. So they went from a assessed value of, you know, whatever it was, to triple, quadruple that number, cause they'd had it a long time. So you gotta be careful. You can screw it up if you have too much income, even though I don't know if they let their daughter keep the profit or what, but their name was reported as having profited. And there was nothing we could do to undo that.
So if you've been granted that freeze,
Yeah,
and a couple years later, for some reason, you have a windfall,
yeah,
is that windfall, unless you tell you?
well, when you apply, you gotta apply for the freeze every year.
Okay,
you
that's,
do.
that's it.
And you have to turn in your 1040. So if you put it on the 1040, then we'll see it. If you don't report it, then they won't see it, but maybe someone else will get you some other day for something else.
So then an adjustment then on that income is somehow attached to just inflation or?
Yeah, the state,
CPI or?
the state makes a decision every so often to move that number.
I'm surprised you have to do it every year, you turn 65 one time.
Well, no, it's the freeze part though. The 65 is once.
Oh, no, I know that. Oh,
Yeah.
that's, I mean.
Yeah, the senior exemption, yeah, your number's going backwards.
Yeah, that's what I
There's
meant,
my
it's like, I
ID.
thought why do you have to apply for the freeze every year?
No, the freeze
Because-
is different.
Okay.
Senior exemption is 65 every income. Senior freeze is only available to those who have limited income. And
Okay,
at the moment, that limit is 65,000.
okay.
And
And that you have to apply for every year?
yes,
That's what I meant.
I'm gonna get to Mike and Chris real quick, but Greg
Yeah.
Chillick had a question in the back.
Yeah, going back to some of your prior comments, if you go through the appeals process, that means you're gonna take, a more thorough review of your property. Is there a risk you're taking then that they could, instead of lowering your assessment, they could raise your assessment?
yep. Usually doesn't happen. I haven't heard of that in a long time, but they'll just tell you denied, and maybe one of them will catch you on the way out and say, hey, don't do this. You're good.
Yeah,
But it's casual, and that's just out of the goodness of their heart. It's a crapshoot if you have professional help. You know, if you hire somebody, there are these firms that were running around advertising that. Sometimes they'll coach you on, hey, don't bother, or we're gonna get this, but be careful, or, you know. But yeah, and the other thing is you have to do some of the work. You have to, if you do the formal appeal, you have to go find the comparable homes that, you have to pull their assessed value, you have to go online and do this work and turn it in. Now, you can hire one of these firms, you can hire a lawyer, you can hire a realtor. So you can get that professional help if you want, but, they will, the board will discriminate. If you come in with shoddy research and very little evidence, they're gonna turn you down. If you come in with heaps of it, they're gonna get exasperated. But if you come in with a smart amount of stuff, and, you know, that pertains to your home, that it's close enough, it's reasonably similar to your home, they're gonna respect that, they're gonna give you the due of a good review.
Mike Thompson?
Yeah, my question's for the city in general, but I'm gonna hold on that, okay?
Okay.
Because I'm enjoying listening to the treasurer.
All right. Chris Erling?
Hey, Chris.
How's it going?
All right.
So, it's more, it's kinda like a two-part question.
Sure.
For the whole entire city, actually, but, so, the finances for the city has been going really, really well for many, many years now. Yeah, so I appreciate everybody's, you know, hard work at that. I think the city's done a really well job on that. My two, well, I guess one, the question, I guess, is there any talk of anything kind of new for, you know, and I don't know, you know, there's a bunch of spitball ideas, but the one that always kind of gets thrown out there, talked about a lot, like a splash pad, or, you know, things like that. You know, and I know there's a lot of insurance stuff that goes along with that, you know, any new, updating of the skate park or anything with the park, I know that's park district, but anything new, that's being talked about, whether it's coming in privately or, you know, that the city can do. You know, I know we're getting a lot of new businesses in, but, you know, and, you know, the other thing that kind of goes along with that is I got a mailer in the mail about, a certain senator that's all happy that he, the Democrats, you know, got, you know, canceled or eliminating the 1%, grocery tax, but nobody realizes that it's the municipality that collects that 1%. The state don't give a rat's ass, you know, they're not collecting that 1%, we're losing it. So, you know, that's an income that we're losing as a municipality. So, you know, I know that's gonna kinda hurt the budget coming up, you know, are we ready for that? So like I said, it's kind of a two-part question there, just wondering what y'all were thinking.
Did me try to answer that one? Alright, so what we have is I've talked to many different towns about the splash pads. Everybody likes a splash pad. The issue with the splash pad is that you're looking between $750,000 and $1 million to put one in. Only way to do that is if we had some type of referendum and raised everybody's taxes to make up that.
That, and that, like I said, off the top of my head, that was just the one thing that, you know,
Right.
in general, if there was just.
And one second, and then you have to maintain it and staff it. So it's not only is it putting it in, that's an extra $150,000 a year to maintain and staff it, insurance and all that. So the splash pad we're talking about, but it's not real feasible at
Could you
this
just
point.
repeat the number to set it up again, please?
For a splash pad,
Yeah,
between $750,000 and $1 million.
750,000,
Thousand,
750,000 up to,
up to $1 million or more. That's numbers from the engineers, that's numbers from, I talked to Manuka, I talked to a couple other ones that have them, they're like, oh, people are like, no, I see you get a splash pad for $350,000. Yeah, it's a splash pad, but you gotta remember, you have to have sewer, water, and once you have it, you have to have a parking lot that staffs, that parks so many people, so now you need that much more land to be able to do it, along with the maintenance on it, and there's a whole lot more than just a splash pad. What was your second question you were asking about,
Well, like you said, you know, just anything with like the park, or anybody, you know, any kind of like entertainment, private entertainment, is anybody, you know, talk to you about coming in and doing a movie theater, or, you know, just anything in general?
well, and just like we get with most of them, business people are gonna come in and they're gonna look at how many people are in the community, how much road traffic we have, how much in and out. Do other businesses open and stay running? Are your local residents patronizing the properties or not? So we do not have a lot of people coming in because they see, you know, restaurants open and closing because they're not being patronized, bars open and closing because not enough people, local people and outsiders are coming to it. So before we're gonna get to that point, we're gonna need some of these bigger businesses that are trying to get established to get a little more traffic, at least this way, to draw enough people to keep any of that open.
Chris, I don't know if you were here 3 weeks ago, the last meeting, but the mayor mentioned a few things that she'd like to do along Main Street here with flowers and just to beautify the road here.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're
That would
talking
be
about.
great. Yeah, I had asked for volunteers, we were talking about several years ago, there was a beautify Braidwood and it kinda just went down,
Yeah.
so I thought I'd revive that and, put some planters out there and kind of spruce up the downtown. We've got very pretty street lights out there, we need to build on that. And I've had a couple people who have expressed an interest in that, so we're gonna try that. Tony and I have also talked back and forth about a dog park in the park district. Someplace where you can bring the dogs. That might be more feasible, that is not, doesn't take huge amounts of
Right.
money.
Yeah.
Work with the park district and get some space set aside. But there are some things like that, we're trying to just do some small things to, bring Braidwood up a little bit. I know you've all seen all the planters and everything that Coal City
Oh,
has. And it's
gorgeous.
like, why don't we do that? That cost a small fortune, and I think they got that with a grant. And it was a matching grant, which means you get so much money and then the city has to invest.
Who keeps that up all the time, like watering the flowers and stuff, cause it's gorgeous.
Yeah, well, they hired somebody.
So that's
They
someone's
hired
full-time
somebody.
job?
I was talking to the administrator over there. I don't have the exact numbers, but he did. And I was totally amazed. The flowers, the watering, the upkeep of
Oh,
those.
for sure.
And it's an amount that, I mean, it sounds like, okay, we'll put flowers in, that'll be fine. But it's
Right, to
the
maintain it,
underneath
yeah.
that you don't see, you know, that
It's
that
in
really
excess of
costs.
$100,000 to
I'm
maintain
sure,
the flowers.
it is gorgeous though,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
it is
So
gorgeous.
we're gonna try, not that much, but try a little bit.
A little bit else.
What? Go ahead.
To answer everything for you, Chris?
Well, just out of curiosity, that 1% grocery tax, what dollar amount would the municipality be losing on that?
According to the paperwork, they say we're probably gonna lose between $70,000 and $100,000
Okay.
that the governor gave away of our money.
And you're not, home rule where you can establish one of your own.
Actually, the governor passed it where it's home rule or not home rule,
Oh, you can establish your own.
you can establish your own.
Yeah.
If you want to, but I believe at this time we're gonna kinda sit back, and that's what you were thinking too, Mayor, commissioners. Those are the things that they also do, the commissioners doing for the cities, that they could reestablish that grocery tax, but they're looking to take $100,000 hit on the chin and figure out how to do it somewhere else, so that you're not paying groceries and tax in Braidwood.
There's a little bit of a strategic hazard, Chris, by doing too much. You know, growth is usually a good thing. But not everybody likes having more people around. It brings more problems. But rooftops, additional rooftops will get the attention of commerce.
Yeah, no,
And then you'll have more things, you'll have more offerings, but more things, more offerings, more people brings more need for water, sewer, police, and fire. And that's what your city's supposed to be doing, water, sewer, police, and fire. Those extra things, you have to look at it, your neighbor might say, wait a minute, why don't they reduce the levy? I don't need flowers, reduce the levy if you got extra, right? So you have to argue that out here and decide amongst yourselves and come to a consensus on what you wanna do. I don't know if were your comments, indicating that there's a surplus of city, you said the city's doing well?
No.
I didn't know what you meant by that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that we've got ourselves under control.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that break
There's no
even, that's what they're
surplus.
supposed to do, is break even. They're not supposed to have big profit, big surplus, not supposed to have big deficits. Trying to keep the boat. So, if you wanna grow by development, it brings another set of problems. But it also does grab some attention where they could apply for grants because there's movement and so on. But there's this, like I say, a strategic hazard there that you may get unintended consequences that you're not happy with.
Tim, I remember that Center Point build up in Elwood, and I worked in and out of Elwood, and I'd see the signs all over the place. Now, all those warehouses out there, that has to help Will County, I mean, taxes.
Yeah.
Does it work the same way? I mean, we look in this town,
Oh, yeah.
if we get car dealerships here, it'll help our,
Yeah.
and it just seems like
I
in the
don't
past 25 years, it's just been going
think
up
they're
and
brought
up,
that.
you know, the taxes. So
But
I don't know.
77%, I didn't bring that exact number, but 77% of the taxes, all the taxes paid. So here, in this year, we're gonna collect, or we billed for $2.3 billion in taxes. The whole county is $2.3 billion in taxes. 77% of that is paid by residential properties. So, some townships like Shanahan, that share is very different. In Shanahan, residential pays about 55% the taxes, and 45 paid by commercial, because guess what's in Shanahan? ExxonMobil and Dow Chemical. So Exxon's the largest taxpayer in the county, pay about $23 million, big number. So that takes pressure off the house in that township, and so the mixture's different. But in general, for the whole county, residential pays a great share of it. But you can affect your township, not the city, that it wouldn't just, you wouldn't separate that way. But you can affect your township's lot by increasing the industrial development in your area. Now, but then somebody's gonna live next to a warehouse, or a tower, or a whatever, an oil refinery. And so there are pros and cons of that.
So the Center Point build-up,
It
it
certainly
benefited that township.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
didn't Center Point get annexed to Joliet because Elwood
Well,
fought for years?
No, there are two halves of it, so the part of it's in Joliet, and the part of it's in Elwood.
'Cause
Elwood
Elwood
was,
didn't want it, they fought it for years and years to not be part of Elwood.
there was a group at one point in Elwood that wanted it because it got done.
And here's
And it's annexed, and they have a ton of revenue coming from that, not as much as they thought. And brand new city hall, you've seen it, and a couple of new things there, but,
when you were just talking about Shanahan, that, I grew up in Shanahan, Manuka, and, they took it from a small town to, you can't even recognize it now, it's small Joliet, Shanahan, Manuka is
yeah,
now.
bigger.
And their taxes, you can't afford to buy a house there,
Right.
so,
That's,
I don't want Braidwood to have all that stuff so that we can't, Braidwood goes from being a small town to we can't afford taxes here either.
We
Right.
moved
All-
it from Manuka so we could
So we
afford
can-
a bigger house
In a
versus
small
not
town.
just
right,
us.
right. So you have to keep communicating that to your elected
We do.
officials, and make sure they're on the same page.
Because Braidwood is a
does-
nice small town.
But Chris wants a splash pad.
I don't know.
No, I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
So if you had a big new development, and you'd have all that extra, those tap-on fees.
And then
and
someone
all
gets
that.
hurt there and sues the city and.
Yeah.
You were,
Yeah.
right, so you on the board, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
you on the board, the splash station on Route 6
Yeah.
in Joliet,
yeah,
that
it was built.
went
while I was-
under, didn't it?
It went under
Yeah.
several times.
And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if you knew what problems they had there, why it didn't stay.
Yeah, they put it in the wrong place. I argued that I wanted it to be built on the river there by Bicentennial Park, just south of that area. There was a bunch of area there by that train bridge, I don't know if anybody knows it. So you got bridges in Joliet, and then the last one is a train bridge. And it would have been accessible to lots of kids on bikes and feet. But because the casino was donating the property, Jack Binion at the time wanted to donate the property, he was buddies with the mayor, they thought, okay, that's a great, boy, it's a no-brainer, we're getting the land for free. And that's why it went out there.
Okay.
I wasn't
Yeah,
that
that's
way.
a,
I
that's
wanted it in the
not very
middle of
many
town,
residents there.
where everybody could reach it easily, and I think that's why it failed. I think it was,
And it is a difficult balance. As we've been going through the CMAT process, which is our plan for the next 10 years, so to speak, and there was the open house last year, we got a lot of input for both keeping a small town, but also having features like potentially a splash pad or this or that. So we got different areas or population that want different things. And so that's a difficult challenge for us to try to balance that. With our new businesses that we're getting in, that's gonna help us some. But that's what, the balances we gotta keep trading off. What we can provide, how do we keep in a financial good straight, and then what people want most. So we are always looking for feedback. There will probably be another open house from the CMAP in the future, and please pass the word to come and have people tell us what you're looking for.
I think what most people want are not objecting so much to commerce coming in or businesses coming in, but they want it done in a way that maintains what they have, but still grow. Yeah, that's it, like Ron said, that's a balancing act, and
Yes.
that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
We're trying very hard to balance that, to give you, not raise those taxes, not make it so burdensome, but still provide some things that, that you want. And then bring in some industry or some commerce that can help us and help you all together. So it's, and we do want your input, you know. Much as I'd like to turn my phone off sometimes, and I'm sure Tony would like to throw it out the window sometimes, we do, he always has said, he's accessible to come in, I'm accessible. You have to call me on my cell, because I haven't figured out how to work phones in City Hall yet. There are lots of phones. But let us know, because that's what we're here for. We're whom you elected, and that's what we're here for.
And exactly for the reason for these town halls. We should have more people here if they really want something. So spread the word to all your neighbors that if they're interested in something, come to the town hall, let us know. Come to a meeting, a council meeting, let us know after the meeting what you're interested in.
See, Tim, we have folks moving from Shanahan, Minooka, Joliet, Oak Lawn, Chicago area that are coming down here for lower taxes, smaller towns.
And this is a wonderful advantage to have your elected officials here in a casual conversation. Some boards, they hit the gavel, move, motion passed, gavel, adjourn, out. They don't listen to anybody. So, this is something you should encourage, and they'll keep doing it if you guys keep showing up and fill some more seats.
And I think it's good and bad, you know, the more people we have, like you said, it'll draw more commerce, but you also gotta remember that maybe north of 80 may have a slightly higher income, so then they come south of 80, and they'll buy your neighbor's house for 50,000 more than you think it's worth, and then the assessment goes up on yours and yours and yours because the assessor gets it. So it's not that the city's raising that taxes, it's that some other person purchased a house, probably because it is appraised. As realtors, we know that appraisals are all over the world, and if it appraises for 50,000 more than you think yours is worth, and the neighbor sells theirs for that, those people coming here willing to pay more money because it's cheaper are gonna raise your taxes. It's not the city raising the assessment.
That's the other hazard. If you do a good job and you have a nice town and it's desirable, then people wanna come here. Well, if they wanna come here, that's called demand. And when the demand increases, and you have a limited supply of housing, the price has to increase. I mean, it's basic economics. So doing a good job having a nice town is sometimes, you know, detrimental to your well-being when it comes to taxes, because your properties are gonna go up in value, but the alternative is worse. You don't want them to go down in value. So, they'll have to live with hopefully a gradual increase that's palatable and feasible for everybody to pay.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Why don't we incorporate more on Route 66? Why don't we put a sign up at the four-way stop that there is a historical museum down at when they come into town? That there is a museum, and maybe, you know, it's not open, I get it all the time, but at least they know it's there.
Actually, me and Dale and Doug Money, and I think maybe even you took we took right out to Mantino to see what their stop signs, we had decorative stop signs, okay, and directional signs that say, you know, this business is this way. Well, we all know that Bay's not here anymore. He refused to allow us to do that. There was no new signs going up and no nothing. So
that's,
if the council decides no,
that's all gone.
That's good.
absolutely.
Done.
If anybody thinks any progress happens in a week or a month,
No.
does not. So we've
That's a
been,
good-
like I said,
Good point. I've got it down.
It's a great
Again.
thought.
Here we go.
It's a great thought because tourism dollars are free dollars.
But
Yep.
again, you have to have something on Main Street
Yeah.
beyond the dollar store for tourism.
There's somewhere there.
And the family
and
casino.
everyone agrees we would like to have more on our street. But the problem is, the city doesn't open a restaurant. We have to get people here. And then not only do we have to get people here, we have to have landlords that don't want twice the value of something's worth. We can't tell them, you're renting too much, you have to rent to this guy for less money. That's the
didn't they just
problem
say
with the
the time?
only empty one down here. they want way too much money, and,
Wasn't that guy halfway into fixing that up when that all went down?
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Now, you might get some help from an outfit called Landmarks, Illinois. They're in the restoration, heritage, renewal.
Yeah, we could have kept our home main street.
Okay, so, you know, Quinn Adamowski, he's a fella in this area that works for Landmarks. He'd be great to come here and talk to you about how you maneuver the right-of-way property, such that, and maybe even private properties, if you had to acquire one. I don't know the layout here, well, it's feasible, but, so that it makes more sense for those industries or those commercial properties that are coming to lean toward what you've laid out, instead of, you know, instead of putting a, I don't wanna pick a storefront that's good or bad, but I'm just, if they wanna put store A, and you guys are all hoping for a B, well, maybe you can make it so that it's more attractive to the Bs instead of the As. And Landmarks may be able to help you do that, because that historical stuff is right up their alley.
Landmarks, Illinois, it's called.
Yeah, I'll look you up quick.
I mean,
Okay.
we have Route 66 sitting out there, and there are so many towns that make a lot of money off of it. Pontiac, which is a small town, doesn't, well, it's not quite a small town, but anyway, it does not have anything.
but we
They
chose,
have Route 66 museums, and they have, you know, car shows. They have all this stuff that draws the 66ers off of 66 into town.
my response to that would be, the problem we have is we have Route 129, and then the railroad tracks, and then Route 53,
Yeah,
and then residential.
yeah,
There's nowhere to put it.
yeah.
We're out. I already tried to go to the comment about the land they own off Center Street to the left, the whole long strip, and they said, yeah, we don't ever sell land. So that's not going anywhere.
And we
Everything
take-
else is houses, the two strip malls, and then we have gas stations, and then we hit the club, that's the end of our property. They're already full, except for the other owners that own them, and they're like, hey, I'm just sitting on mine for whenever. So if it was up to us, all that would be done. We put the, zoo up to, possibly to be for sale, and we almost got hung,
There was
Why?
talk also.
because they like the zoo right there.
The what's up for sale?
The zoo.
It's not up for sale, we discussed, I believe we did surplus that land because we had a couple of restaurants that were wanting to put a building up there, and, which is on Route 66, but when we talked about it, I know it's hard to believe, but I made Facebook in not a good way, so.
Say it isn't so.
Yeah, because we even considered putting a business there instead of a pavilion. So we can't. If we do something,
Ice cream shop.
we're damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't.
You're absolutely correct, Tony, and unfortunately, that's the way the world works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you know what, people get over it. I think if eventually it will grow on them, if it's for the good.
Well, the problem we have with that is that everybody feels that you get somebody in here for 4 years and they're really starting to get stuff going, and somebody just doesn't like them, so let's get rid of all these guys and start over again. So
Well, you know
then
what,
they
Tony?
start all over again.
Okay,
It's
we're not
just-
going there, it's not,
Nope.
it's not what I was talking about.
Okay, well, that's
We're
what I'm
not
saying.
talking
That's
about
why.
elections, we're talking about using Route 66. The fact we have a historical society, putting a sign up, that's it.
I've got it.
Signs are good, we've already got that.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
Okay, I got a question. We're hearing all about the Ford dealership and all this and everything else. Are we gonna be another Jewel where it's gonna sit for 10 years before they decide to come in and do something?
Nope, but if you could call either the attorneys and engineers, IDOT, Department of Conservation, we have all the other ones, and tell them, hey, get off your ass and give us the permits, it would be started. There's approximately 18 months from start to even get going on the average stuff when you have so many initials in front of you.
Well, it's been over.
Claypool Drainage, IDOT, Army Corps of Engineers, I mean, they're not a whole handful that, and do any of them move quick? Along with ComEd, we have a ComEd easement we have to get permission to go through. We have all the initials that could choke a horse. That's the problem. Now we go down to the new gas station down there, they don't have half of those, so they'll probably be going in a month.
Yeah, I see they got all the markers out there and everything.
We can't force them to move faster. If we could,
Get a question with that. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna tell Tony, in the past week, the Illinois Department of Commerce has actually released $5 million in grant fees for properties along Route 66. 20 grand plus per municipality. I sent it over to you, Tony, so you know.
yeah, I think I was reading that.
I think the answer to partnershipping is a really good way to do it. As you saw, the Joliet Area Historical Museum partnered with Wilmington.
Right.
Bought the
Save the
giant, and that's, so you've got that outfit, the, DECA, or what's it?
Department of Commerce.
Yeah, Department of Commerce. The Joliet Area Historical Museum may help you promote your museum. And then Landmarks Illinois may have some historical spots in town they can bring, so partner. Invite the people in and say, what do you think, we think? I think that's the way to do it, is with some.
And I agree. You know, that you have to network or you're never gonna keep the town up.
Right. But you're right, the Route 66 thing is good, yeah, there's nothing right on it, but maybe you can work with that. You know,
Just bring it in, there's the old motel that sits right there. That if it was advertised more, that actually it was a motel that a lot of people off of 66 stayed at, because it was right there.
Yeah,
You know, we have an old motel out in 66.
the Heritage Corridor Group, they're
Yeah.
the first 100 miles, they're pushing all this, and if you call them, say, look, you're 100 miles, we're just, how much do we have?
60.
Is it a half a mile?
Yeah,
Oh,
mile.
half mile, but you're in the 100, so come on down, let's talk about possibilities. You know?
Talking about, partnership, one of the things that we partnered with was Will County Pace, Wilmington, and we now have the Dial-A-Ride in there, and that's something that came through with, when we had the open houses, that people wanted transportation. Transportation was very difficult to do, we tried it once and it sunk. You just couldn't make
It's
it work
hard
by,
to do it on your
well,
own.
that's the whole thing, you can't do it on your own. So, partnering with Wilmington and Will County and Pace, we have it now, so, and we all need to make use of that, that's a very nice thing that has come, so.
What
Well,
does
might
it
be a
actually
good-
offer? It didn't, I mean, I saw it in the paper, but like,
We got some flyers that will.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. You have to register, you know, and it's, the parameters are 65, you have to be 65 years of age, and there has to be some kind of a disability unable to, you know, get around. And
Or
that's-
disabled if you're.
I was gonna say for like her MS, if she couldn't get to a doctor's appointment, they don't offer the rides through there, they do. I mean, she's nowhere near 65, but.
No,
Oh, no,
if
if
you-
she's,
Disabled.
if
It's
she's
disabled.
disabled, yeah, that's the other, yeah, absolutely.
This might be a nice time to finish up. Thank everybody for
3 minutes
coming.
to 7, and
Thank
you gotta get your attorney's here, so you don't wanna have him overtime. But
Thanks for
any
coming.
other questions? Your second installment is due September 3rd. Don't wait till the last minute, that's when things get goofed up. If you need help, call my office.
Thank you very much for all your.
Thank you.